I'm Anastasia Chatzka, a fashion designer with over 20 years of experience and a sewing educator. And I'm really excited you're here to share another sewing adventure with me today. Welcome to Sewing Anastasia, and today we are going to go over what a double edge stitch is and when you should use it. And I'm also going to demo and show you exactly how to perform it. If you're not already a subscriber to Sewing Anastasia, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell because I have new videos that come out every single week and they're all about sewing. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for subscribing and following me with all of my sewing adventures. And here is the double edge stitch because we have an edge stitch on the right and the left side of the seam. So let's take a closer look. This here is the double edge stitch. You'll notice that we have an edge stitch on the right and on the left side of the seam, 1/8 of an inch away from the seam on the right and on the left. And before we perform the edge stitches, we iron open our seam. So by ironing open the seam first and then performing the edge stitches, it makes this a really super flat seam. This seam is great for really heavy fabrics like leathers and denims and upholstery fabrics. So let's go ahead and try this out on a sample. So let's go ahead and create a double edge stitch. I have 2 pieces of fabric and I'm placing them right sides together. The first step is going to be creating the seam. So I'm going to be making a 1/2 inch seam here. I'm going to make sure I back stitch at the beginning and the end of my seam. Keep it nice and secure. Back stitch and cut. Now, if we turn this to the wrong side here, we want to press open our seam for this one. So I'm going to finger press it here. This muslin is nice and stiff. And now we're going to flip it to the right side. We always want to perform the stitch on the right side of the fabric so we can make it look nice and pretty. So first I'm going to go ahead and create an edge stitch on the right side, and I'm stitching through just 1 piece of my seam allowance. And this is a permanent stitch, so we're going to make sure we back stitch. And for lining it up, I'm going to line the seam up with this right angle on the left of the foot. If you don't have a foot with this right angle, no worries. Just find out where your guides are on your foot so you know where your 1/8 of an inch is. We're going to back stitch at the beginning. We're going to back stitch at the end and cut. So now that we have 1 edge stitch on, we need to perform the other edge stitch. Again, we have our seam allowance flat open, so that way we're going to be stitching through 1 layer of the seam allowance and our top layer of the fabric. So now to stitch 1/8 of an inch on the left, we're going to be lining up our seam with the right angle on the right of the foot. So go ahead and line it up, and now let's perform our back stitches to make our stitch permanent, and then work your way all the way down your seam. Back stitch at the end and cut. And look how beautiful our double edge stitch is, and it's keeping our seam nice and flat and open. Here's our double edge stitch, and we are looking awesome. We've got an edge stitch on the right and the left side of the seam, 1/8 of an inch away. And now that you know how to perform this, where are you going to use the double edge stitch? Well, the double edge stitch is great for sewing leather, so that way you can press open your seams and do that double edge stitch on both sides, and it gives you a great press seam for leather in really heavy fabric. So imagine doing some upholstery work or maybe creating a bag. So options are endless, so go ahead and try a double edge stitch next time you're using a really heavy fabric. Thanks so much for watching Sewing Anastasia today and learning all about the double edge stitch. If you have any questions about it, make sure you leave it down below and I will get back with you as soon as I can. And if you're not already a subscriber, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell because I put out sewing videos every single week. So many sewing videos, so you don't want to miss one. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for watching. And make sure you follow me on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and TikTok and all those other fabulous social media websites because I put out sewing content every single day. And I know you love sewing as much as I do. So let's stay connected and creative together. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!